It's 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're looking at the webinar, Rethinking the Design and Implementation of Individualized Education Programs through a UDL Lens. For those of you driving, there's a pair of glasses on the slide, and it says State Support Team 7 and OCALI Universal Design for Learning Center on the other side, because we know folks that are driving in their car love to come to the webinars.
And we have that great link to the presentation on there too, Ron.
http://bit.ly/2KR2RJK.
Yes, thanks, Barb, for reminding everybody and me of that.
Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you took the time to be with us here on this webinar. It's been fun getting it ready for you.
Here we have a beautiful poster of Garfield with a magic wand. And this poster was made by Ella Rogers. Yes, my relation, it's my daughter. And for those of you driving, the top says welcome, and at the bottom it says, creating expert learners is not magic. I'm Ron, the guy messing things up in the picture, because we're giving each other high fives, but of course I messed it up by not looking at Barb. So there's two of them on there, one of me doing it correct and one not, and I'm with OCALI.
And I'm Barb Gentile Green with State Support Team Region 7. Always willing to support my friend Ron. We got that picture right, Ron.
We did, I think, finally. We are two agencies that created one great webinar, State Support Team Region 7 and the Universal Design for Learning Center at OCALI. Okay, to use this webinar GoToMeeting panel, you can raise your hand, hitting that one button there. It kind of has an arrow going to it, or you can interact by typing in the box with the arrow going to it. So let's see. Please type in the area that says here, and you can see where the posts can go. And let's go ahead and practice typing. So please type into the question box if you're alone or how many people are setting with you, because we know some people set in teams, and Barb and I will read some of your answers. So let's check and see how you do. Okay, it looks like Catherine is alone. Julia's alone.
Paul's all alone. A lot of flying solos today, Ron.
Yeah, and some hellos for us too.
Hey, Julie. Paula.
Oh, wow. Here's one with a co-teacher, Barb.
All right, love it, Stacy, love it.
Yes.
The co-teacher. Cool.
Watching by myself. Okay,
right.
Well, hey, we'll take that. That's good stuff.
All right, so if you are Twitter people, make sure to join us. Ron and I love Twitter. Ron got me into Twitter and made me a Twitter lover. So follow by hashtag UDLPLN, or you can follow at Region 7 SST, and my handle is at @BGentileGreen, and Ron's is at Ron B. Rogers.
By the way, John just put in there that there's 5 of us. So
hey,
there's an extra 5.
Party going on.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. All right, so like Ron said, the title of the webinar is Rethinking the Design and Implementation of Individualized Education Programs, or IEPs, through a UDL lens. And again, for those of you driving, the graphic on the side is of a brain with a thought bubble, contains a pair of glasses with UDL on the lenses, and a white document with IEP written on it. And this topic, we really had to focus it because it's so vast. So in order to cover it in 30 minutes, we have 2 learning outcomes. The first one is I can examine how the UDL framework can be utilized within the IEP development process. And the second one is I can determine how IEP goals and specially designed instruction can be designed to impact the development of expert learners.
Here in Ohio, we just have to share this slide, which represents Ohio's strategic plan. Hashtag each child, our future. We know and understand there's people from around the world on this webinar. However, we're just so proud of our Ohio strategic plan, and we wanted to share it.
And look at that in the center, Ron. Whole child. That's our focus. Just like for the IEP, that's our focus.
Inclusive education is characterized by presumed competence, authentic membership, full participation, reciprocal social relationships, and learning to high standards by all students with disabilities in age-appropriate general education classrooms, with supports provided to students and teachers to enable them to be successful. We get that all from the National Council on Inclusive Education 2011. This is our overarching goal, and the webinar can help us move toward this vision.
All right. The next one is an excerpt from IDEA. And in the law, this is what Congress writes, that disability is a natural part of the human experience and in no way diminishes the rights of individuals to participate in or contribute to society. Improving educational results for children with disabilities is an essential element of our national policy of ensuring equality of opportunity, full participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency for individuals with disabilities. Ron, Congress sure had a vision when they developed this law. If you read this excerpt and compare it to the inclusive education definition that you just read, we can see a strong connection. So IDEA talks about disability being that natural part of the human experience. I love that. It's just the variability in all of us. Ensuring equality of opportunity, full participation, independent living. And inclusive education references that presumed competence, authentic membership, and full participation. So in order to accomplish what these two documents are referencing, we have to look at several factors. But like I said before, this webinar is only 30 minutes long, so we had to narrow it down. So we're going to focus in on how the IEP is developed to lead to that intended outcome of IDEA. So we have a survey question coming up, and I am going to read it for you because on the slide we had to shorten, and in the survey we had to shorten the statements, but we really want to think about how the UDL framework can be applied to the IEP meeting. Now that I know UDL, I can't unsee it. I find myself applying it to life in general. So now we're going to apply it to the IEP meeting. Ron and I have heard a lot of perspectives over the years about IEPs, but this is where we want to hear from you. So, which of the following statements do you most often hear when listening to discussions about IEP meetings? Number one, it's a meeting to do the required paperwork, but it doesn't really impact the child. Number two, something that everyone, including the family, dreads because it is contentious or cumbersome or focused on what the child can't do. Or three, a team approach where everyone brainstorms, celebrates the child's accomplishments, and puts together a plan that will lead to further growth.
Okay, people are voting. I am going to share the results.
All right, so nice. Oh, Ron, look at that. 53% feel it's a team approach where we've got brainstorming and celebration going on. Only 12% the family dreads it, and 35% some just, going through it for the paperwork part of it. So a little bit of a spread, but I'm so happy that more people see it as a team approach.
Great.
So what we've done is we've designed some success tips for you. So we have 3 of them for the IEP meeting, and we're going to make a tie to the UDL framework. So our goal is to increase the number of times we hear that third scenario where it's really a team approach and focused on the celebrations. So here are our 3 tips to make sure that that happens. The first one, ask families how they would like to provide input and give feedback related to the development of the IEP. So tying it to UDL, we are under the engagement principle. And if we look at choice, optimizing choice, a question I might ask is, in what ways do schools seek the family voice related to the IEP meeting? So one way is to offer choice for when and where the meeting is held. Maybe asking the family how they would like to receive information to prepare for the meeting is another. And then under the representation principle, if we're activating that background knowledge ahead of the meeting, have you set up a way for the team members, including the family, to ask clarifying questions if something is not understood.
I really like that one, Barb.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
You know,
Yes.
that IEP can be so cumbersome in terms of the language we use in it. So we want to make sure we give those opportunities for questions, and also providing information ahead of the meeting. That'll allow the family to build their background knowledge and be prepared to have rich conversation at the meeting, because that's really what changes things for kids. So that's tip number 1. Then tip number 2 is thinking about how we design the meeting environment to allow for comfort and engagement. So the tie to UDL here is under the engagement principles, especially minimizing threats and distractions and fostering collaboration and community. So what does the environment for the IEP meeting look like? What's it sound like? What's it feel like? How do folks arrange themselves? So ideally, is it a round table where there's a nice blending of school staff and family, or are they distributed on sides of a table that has that potential to set up a feeling of us versus them? We don't want that at all. Make sure the temperature and the lighting, the noise level, the sensory experience is comfortable. And then when we start that meeting, are we really clarifying the goal? Are we really talking about how it is to improve the outcomes for the kiddo? That's what it's all about. You know, can we have some nice music playing in the background before the meeting starts? Can we have some snacks or beverages? Do we hear a lot of paper being shuffled around? And if we were to listen to the meeting, whose voices would we hear the most? Is there an intentional effort to seek input from the family? Is there points where somebody stops and says, you know, is everybody understanding where we are? Are there any ways we can answer questions right now? You know, how does the school staff seek that feedback from the family when they discuss ideas? And super important, there's going to be disagreements sometimes. So how is it handled if there is a disagreement between IEP team members? So those are our tips for setting up the meeting environment.
And it really is on us educators too, isn't it, Barb?
It is.
Barb and I didn't mention it, but if you want to download the handouts, of course, they're at the bottom of your GoToMeeting dashboard. So always feel free to do that. Success tip number 3. Keep the focus on the child, his or her strengths, motivations, and goals. Engagement principles, the one we'd be looking at in UDL. Promote expectations and beliefs that optimize motivation. If we keep the why of the IEP, the child and the services he needs to meet the educational standards, how would this change the motivation of the IEP team? How can we celebrate those successes? Set high expectations for the team and for the child, and would that change the feel and function of the IEP meeting? Start with examples of the student's strengths and ensure that those strengths are referenced throughout the meeting. Again, start with the examples of the student's strengths and ensure that those strengths are referenced throughout the meeting.
Yeah, definitely.
So the top 3 tips for the IEP meeting for success. Let's recap those. Ask families how they would like to provide input and give feedback related to the development of the IEP. 2, design the meeting environment to allow for comfort and engagement. And 3, keep the focus on the child, his or her motivations and goals.
Awesome.
When a student's found to be eligible for special education, the team is making a determination that the student has a disability and needs special designed instruction. Adopting the content, methodology.
Don't you love that word, Ron?
That's a tongue twister.
It is.
Or delivery of instruction to meet the unique needs of the student. So while UDL provides access and builds independence toward every student becoming an expert learner, some students need more.
Yeah.
Here we have the beautiful cartoon. And a lot of you are probably familiar with this. There's the little guy in the wheelchair and the custodian shoveling steps. So here's how it reads. The little guy in the wheelchair says, "Could you please shovel the ramp?" And the custodian says, "All these other kids are waiting to use the stairs. When I get through shoveling them off, then I will clear the ramp for you." The little guy in the wheelchair says, "But if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in." Clearing a path for people with special needs clears the path for everyone. UDL alone, though, is not enough to provide access for some learners. Let's go on to the next slide.
So we have to give Shauna Benson from OCALI's Teaching Diverse Learners Center credit for this slide. You know, we stole it from her, but she let us. So we really have to start looking at the people, children, our students, separate from their tools and supports that they need for success. So in this particular case, this child cannot access the building without his mobility tool, without his wheelchair. So even though UDL is in place, the ramp and the handrails were there, maybe the custodian shoveling that ramp, he needs his wheelchair in order to get into that building. So we just have to acknowledge that there are learner-specific supports and services beyond UDL, and we really have to think about the person and the tools or the supports that they need for that access. So that's just a way to hone in on that visual and look at it from a different perspective.
Empowering or enabling. On this slide, if you're driving, there's one picture of a guy on a scaffold or two guys on a scaffold outside of a building. And then in the other picture is a fire escape on the outside of a building, if you remember what those looked like in the old days. So another way to think about how we're developing the IEP is to ask this question. Are the services we're writing into the IEP empowering or enabling the learner? Those of you who engaged with our webinar last year might remember this visual. The scaffolding represents a temporary support while the student is building skills or strategies. The fire escape is permanent. It doesn't move. Is the IEP including accommodations that have become permanent without consideration for building a skill or strategy for the student to become more independent? For example, are we always reading text aloud to the student instead of teaching them reading strategies to build their reading skills and independence?
And I love that term scaffolding, Ron, because it's used so much in UDL, and I like that reference you brought to that visual. There's something else being built while we use that scaffold, and so we can't forget that in UDL or in the IEP. So we're going to move into how we write those IEP goals. And this slide says, develop goals that answer the question, what skills or strategies does the student require to master the content of the curriculum? Not what curriculum content does the student need to master. So let me explain this a little bit further. Often that term standards-based IEP is misunderstood. And so this slide helps us see that connection. The state learning standards, for example, in Ohio, it's the learning standards and the extended standards. They already tell us what curriculum content the student needs to master. This is the content for all learners. Instead, for the IEP, we have to determine why the learner is having difficulty mastering the content. This requires that the IEP team digs deeply into the root cause of the difficulty, maybe referencing the evaluation team report as well as the classroom performance data. So a strategy that can be used to get to this root cause is called the 5 Whys Deep strategy. And on the slide, that's really what it says. There's bubbles with the word why in it, and there's 5 of those on the slide. And Ron and I are going to model how this might be used. I'm going to be the coach for Ron, who's the teacher trying to design an IEP goal for his learner. So, Ron, why is the student having difficulty mastering the science content?
Well, the student's really having a lot of difficulty reading, Barb.
Okay. Well, Ron, reading is a pretty broad skill. So why does he have difficulty reading?
I think the vocabulary's really got him stumped. He just doesn't understand it.
Okay, so let's dig a little deeper with why. So why doesn't he understand the vocabulary? Is it because he cannot decode the word? Or can he read it but not know what it means?
Great questions. Let me think for a second. He can decode the word, but he still doesn't know what it means, Barb.
Okay, so a little deeper. Why doesn't he know what it means? So does he know how to break the word into meaningful parts? What we're talking about here is the morphology of the word. Does he know how to break that word into meaningful parts?
No, he cannot do that.
Aha. All right, so we may be to the root cause of his reading difficulty. So in this situation, in this case, we could work on his skills and strategy of breaking a word apart into its root word and the meaning of that root word, and how to understand them when they have different prefixes and suffixes. So basically, the student needs to have that foundation of Greek and Latin roots that can support his ability to make meaning of the words in science. Does that make sense, Ron?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Perhaps writing a vocabulary strategy goal could support the mastery of the content. The benchmarks could be written in a way to gradually release and build that independence. So maybe first, learning a certain number of prefixes, suffixes, and root words with adult modeling and visual supports. 2, maybe progressing to manipulating prefixes, suffixes, and root words and understanding the changing meanings with adult feedback. And 3, moving to independence with breaking the word apart and determining its meaning when reading it is in a sentence. And 4, lastly, by being able to apply that skill across content areas. These benchmarks have a strong tie to the Universal Design for Learning representation and engagement principles. They are clarify vocabulary, vary demands and resources to optimize challenge and maximize transfer and generalization. Sample IEP goal and benchmarks are within the resources.
Yeah. So let me just say, Ron, that I love how you talk through that release of responsibility so that the child can really master and generalize those skills. So this is a complex skill, and hopefully if they pull up the resource and can see that sample of how we thought that IEP and those objectives or benchmarks would go, hopefully that'll be helpful for people.
Yes, I'm glad you definitely highlighted that, Barb. So success tip number 1, design goals that help students develop skills or strategies. That will lead to increased independence and expert learning. Let's make the connection to UDL then. Under action and expression, not only can the teacher design core instruction utilizing UDL, but the IEP team can further support the learner by embedding these into the IEP process. For example, in the spatially designed instruction part of the IEP, once the student sets a goal for himself related to the skill or strategy, how does he monitor his progress in using these skills or strategies? Another question is, how does he determine what has worked for him, and how's he tracking the use of the strategies?
And I'm just going to say that's something that I would love to see in IEPs is how students are self-monitoring. And we thought about giving an example for self-monitoring goal, but to me that's such another strong tie to UDL. So making that connection will be awesome. So the next success tip that we have is ensuring that every team member who is engaging with the learner understands the goals and the services within the IEP. So to make the tie to UDL, we're under the representation principle, clarifying vocabulary. So education is full of acronyms and lingo, and that applies to special education too. Those of us working in the field, we can rattle those acronyms off like butter rolling off a hot corn cob, can't we, Ron?
I love that.
We expect that everyone understands what we mean, but we need to be sure that everyone understands. The UDL framework applies to the adults too. So the question for the IEP team is, how do you ensure that everyone understands the vocabulary within the IEP? Does everyone understand what the goal means? Does everybody understand the services that are on the IEP? Here's my favorite. Does everyone understand the difference between accommodations, modifications, and specially designed instruction? We had a handout in the last webinar about that. So in Ohio, there's this section on the IEP on the services page. It's called Support for School Personnel. This section is underutilized, but it is a place for teams to write in how the team members will be supported while they implement the IEP. If the general ed teacher needs professional development so that she can implement a strategy from the IEP within the general education classroom, it can be described in this section. So harness that powerful part of the IEP to make sure everybody understands. Tip number 3, Ron.
Tip number 3, clearly describe the spatially designed instruction the student requires to meet her unique needs. Goals without spatially designed instruction is like having a roller coaster without the track. You just can't get anywhere. See, I can do those too,
yes,
Barb.
you can, Ron.
If we apply the UDL framework as we write the spatially designed instruction, we're thinking about how we move from the access level of framework through the build level to the internalized level, moving the student to becoming an expert learner. If we think about the services we provide to move the student through these stages and just write what we do, it becomes very clear to those reading the IEP what the spatially designed instruction is. We begin with the adult modeling and scaffolds that provide access and build student skills, then explicitly describe how we will help the child internalize the skills or strategies and how we can help them determine ways to self-monitor their progress. When students are owning their learning, they have become expert learners.
That's the goal. Love it. So let's recap.
I love recaps.
Yeah, helps us all bring it back together.
Bring it together.
We're trying to remember how to set that IEP goal up for success for the child. So here they are. First, design goals that help students develop skills or strategies, those two big S words, skills or strategies that will lead to increased independence and expert learning. Number 2, ensure that every team member who's engaging with the learner understands the goals and the services within the IEP. And number 3, clearly describe the specially designed instruction that the student requires to meet those unique needs. All right.
Wow.
I know. Do we have any questions, Ron? There's been a lot of information to try to.
It has.
To
Let me check and see if we have any new questions, because we do have a couple minutes if someone does. Oh, Barb, it's amazing how many people have joined us today. We have SSTs from Ohio represented. We have cast members. We have George Van Horn on there.
Who, George?
Yes, we just have people from all over the place, and it's great, and professionals. And some of those folks could probably be doing this webinar probably even a better job than we are.
Absolutely, for sure.
Join one of the best chats on Twitter, hashtag UDL Chat, 9 p.m. Eastern time every first and third Wednesday. Barb will be on there, I'll be on there, and so will be a lot of special people that love universal design for learning from around the world.
Tonight.
That's tonight, Barb.
Don't forget the chat. It's kind of a unique thing we're talking about tonight, how we can apply UDL in other kinds of settings. So I love that concept.
Yes, that'll be exciting. Callie Kahns coming November 20th through the 22nd in Columbus at the Convention Center. We get people from all over the world, so be sure to join us there.
And look at that, Ron. I love how they've reworded. So we're featuring the Inclusive Education Leadership Institute with Callie Kahns this year. I love that collaboration with the Ohio Department of Education. So very good. Well, we're really glad you guys took some time to join us today. It looks like we're running out of time. We realize it was a lot of information. Hope you took away 1 or 2 golden nuggets. And thank you so much for joining the webinar. You going to say anything, Ron?
Sure. Thanks, everybody. I wanted Barb to get the last word in, so I wasn't going to say anything.
I wanted Ron to, so there you go.